Boker Tov, good morning. Today is Friday, July 30th, Erev Shabbat Parshat Ekev, right in the midst of the Olympics. And I think that what we're watching happen in the Olympics or around the Olympics is something that might be alluded to and a lesson taught to us through the Parashat. You'll ask me how. I'll share with you a pasuk. Ve'amarta bilvavecha Kochi v'otzem yadi, asad li et hachayil hazeh. And you might say in your heart, when you come into Israel, and so much good has come your way, you're able to defeat all the enemies round about, and have all the good that Israel offers. So you might say, my strength and the power of my hand, that's what has brought me this victory. B'zacharta, and you should remember, et Hashem Elokecha, and you should remember, and that's how I would read it, right? You must remember God your Lord, ki hu hanotein lecha chayil, koach la'asot chayil, because it's God who gives you the strength to la'asot chayil, to be victorious. In order that he should affirm and establish his covenant that he swore to your fathers like this day. What message is there? So one message clearly is a long and important discussion about the Am Yisrael and the arrogance that God worries about, that we will forget God in God's land, and the blessings that God has given us. We will somehow think that it's we who accomplished it, and we could defeat all those all of those who sought to prevent us from coming to Israel, and it's our power and our strength. And you should know it comes from Hashem. Hashem is the one who enabled you to have those victories. And if you lose sight of that, then oy vavoy, that's the continuation of the psukim that follow. But there's another broader message that doesn't really sit just in the conquering of the land of Israel. It's an important reflection in general about the things that we accomplish in life. To one degree, the message is, you should know nothing comes your way without God wanting it. That is true. That's a larger, higher theological statement, that our successes are there because God would want us to have them, and we should be humbled by that. But there's also this message, I think that's significant, to recognize that a koach la'asot chayil is not just the physical muscles that we have, but another place. It is a capacity to go about the challenge in front of us. And we look at some of the most highly regarded, perhaps the greatest people who have ever participated in certain sports. Take Simone Biles, for example, who is the argument is clearly made, and seems to be the consensus that she is the greatest gymnast that we've produced ever in this country. And she found herself, even though she has such ability, she found herself in a mental space where she didn't have koach la'asot chayil. She didn't have the strength to go and engage in the battle, as it were, right? Because the koach la'asot chayil is not just about your physical capacities; it's about some inner thing. It's in your head. It's in your confidence. It relates to your fears and that you might have, and how you live with those fears or respond to those fears. Because la'asot chayil, if you're out there as a soldier and you're not afraid at all, that's not even a human capacity. But if you're afraid because you're a human and yet you can push through, so that's a koach la'asot chayil. That's a specific strength. So Am Yisrael had that because God gave them the capacity to be able to do that when they needed to. And it's not then simply that you get the jiggles. I think that was a term that's used for by gymnasts who suddenly are uncertain when they're doing some of their most complicated routines. It's not just jiggles. It has to do with all the brain space that that is taken up by that battle between the things that we are fearful of and our readiness to take them on, and our confidence in our ability to do so. And if the confidence is weakened, as we saw happen seemingly, right, then you can't do it. You can't do it. And obviously, if what you're doing doesn't involve real risk to you, then perhaps you push through it. But if what you do involves risk, right, you're going to be jumping and flying off of beams and the like. So then it's important that you be able to stop yourself. The sad thing is that over the course of time, at least in sort of earlier iterations till recently, so we hear these terrible stories about coaches who so demanding and push these kids to against their fears, and somehow believe that's how you're going to accomplish things, but probably mess them up, a lot of them, in significant ways. This is a very healthy spot for someone to be in, who says, you know what, I right now I'm not finding the koach, and then to do real work about what my how can I regain the koach, how can I rethink this, whatever form of therapy there is or mindfulness there is and settling there is that a person needs to do. Hopefully they can do it, and I'm sure there are people who are even working with Simone Biles right now to help her find the koach for some of that, which she still hopes to do at the Olympics, and maybe she won't, and kol hakavod to her that she's able to draw the distinction and to know that there are things that are more important than the chayil, than the victory, than the battle and the victory. It's about having koach that is real and that is healthy, and that will keep her in a good place. I worry this for myself. I have whatever my own chayil is that I have to fight. I always want to deal with. I have to deal with my own koach, and I imagine most of you have to do so too. Maybe this is a moment for us to pause and to think about that. What are the ways in which we can do the work that we need to do to take on the challenges that are in front of us, and somewhere in there to know that koach, with all the psychodynamic components to what that is, ultimately comes from God too. It's God that does that, that gives us the koach to do so. And may God indeed give us koach for all that stands before us. Have a beautiful Shabbat.